Hello, everyone. This is Savannah, and today we'll be talking to you about how mystery authors divert their audience's attention. So first, some background. I found a fun definition of mystery from the Oxford English Dictionary. It defines a mystery as a novel, play, or movie dealing with a puzzling crime, especially a murder. Some history about the genre. In 1841, the mystery genre begins to take off with Edgar Allan Poe's The Murders in the Rue Morgue, but it really skyrockets in 1887 when Sir Arthur Conan Doyle debuts Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson in his short story A Study in Scarlet. The genre continues to become more popular from there. So in the 1920s, we enter the golden age of mystery. So during this era, you have authors like Agatha Christie and Sir Edward Statmeyer, who was the creator of Nancy Drew and the Hardy Boys. Some key components of the genre are going to be your characters. Your protagonist is probably going to be the detective or the sleuth who is solving the mystery. Your other characters will include either the protagonist's sidekick, their romantic interest, and the villain antagonist. Next, you'll have your inciting incident. The most popular ones in murder mysteries, or not murder mysteries, but just mysteries in general. And the most popular one is murder, like I accidentally just said. Some other ones are somebody going missing, or somebody mysterious arriving in a town, or any other ones that you care to think of. Those will be your inciting incidents. The next key component is having a distinctive setting. If you have a distinctive setting, it will help lure your audience into the world in which your characters are set and will help them visualize where they are, basically. And also, having a distinctive setting is helpful for placing red herrings, which is the main topic of this presentation. For those of you who are not familiar with red herrings, a red herring is basically just a type of foreshadowing in which the reader is incorrectly misled by different objects or clues or characters throughout the book, and they are either led to incorrectly assume what has already happened, or they're led to incorrectly assume what is going to happen in the book. And I chose to talk about red herrings today because I've seen a lot of cliches in mystery novels in which the antagonist is badly hidden behind another character. So in this presentation, I've picked out a few outstanding examples in novels that I will share with you in the next slide, and hopefully you can take away some key points from those. The first example I wanted to start with are two books from the Harry Potter series by J.K. Rowling, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone and Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. In Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, it is a bit of a cliche, but I think that Rowling does a good job of hiding Professor Quirrell, the real antagonist, behind the fake antagonist of Professor Snape. In the first scene, not the first scene of the book, but the first scene in which the red herring begins to develop, in the Great Hall, Harry's scar hurts once he looks at Professor Snape. In a later scene, in Harry's first game of Quidditch, his broom starts to go wacky because it's been jinxed. And as soon as Ron and Hermione notice this, they also notice that Professor Snape is muttering something and assume that Professor Snape is the one muttering the jinx. However, in the penultimate chapter, it is revealed that Professor Quirrell is actually the antagonist, and the reader can go back and place clues together because Professor Quirrell was sitting near Professor Snape in the Great Hall, which is why Harry's scar started to hurt. And during Harry's first Quidditch match, Professor Quirrell was actually the one muttering the jinx, and Professor Snape was muttering the counterspell. However, Ron and Hermione just happened to notice Professor Snape muttering, so it confirmed their suspicion of Professor Snape already being the bad guy. This is expounded upon the red herring trope. It is better developed, in Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban through Sirius Black and Peter Pettigrew. In Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, Sirius Black is supposed to be the antagonist. Harry finds out that he was supposedly his parents' secret keeper and was the one to betray them to Voldemort. He also was the one to blow up Peter Pettigrew in the street before he was captured and taken to Azkaban. So Harry is very hell-bent on putting Sirius Black to justice and finding him after he escapes from Azkaban. However, at the end of the book, we find out that Peter Pettigrew is actually the one who betrayed Harry's parents because he was the secret keeper and he blew himself up in the street in order to place the evidence of his finger and make it look like he had been blown up before transforming into a rat and becoming the Weasley's pet for the past 12 years. So in Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, I find that the red herrings are significant because we are also led throughout the entire book to believe that Sirius Black is the bad guy, and some other red herrings that she throws out for the audience to focus on are the Marauders map, which is created by James Potter, Sirius Black, Peter Pettigrew, and Remus Lupin, who all feature considerably in Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Next, we move on to some of Agatha Christie's novels. The first one I will talk about is Murder on the Orient Express. For those of you who are not familiar, it is one of her famous Detective Hercule Poirot novels. In this one, Poirot is staying on a train and he is traveling throughout West Asia when all of a sudden the train has to stop because there is snow on the tracks. And during the first night, when they find out they have to stop, a passenger in the first class cabin is killed. Now, Poirot knows that the number of suspects is limited to those on the first class cabin because nobody can move in between train cars. Throughout the novel, he is given multiple red herrings through objects and clues, such as a red kimono, and he finds multiple knives. He also has a letter that he has to figure out an ink blot on. And at the end of the novel, instead of finding out that it was one culprit, we find out that it was all of the first class passengers who wanted to murder the person that they ended up murdering. And as I mentioned previously, throughout the novel, he is given many objects, and therefore the audience is given many objects to look at in order to mislead them and give them trouble in figuring out the mystery, so that at the end, when the red herring is revealed, it is a big twist that nobody will see coming. In another one of her novels, And Then There Were None, 10 people are lured to an island under the false pretense of it being a dinner celebrating their different accomplishments. But then they soon find out that they are on the island to serve punishment for their past crimes. The novel is based on the poem 10 Little Soldiers. So in accordance with the poem, each character is killed off according to a stanza of the poem. The red herrings are incorporated into this novel through different objects and clues as well, but also because the readers and the characters have to make convictions very early on of who they think the murderer is. And their conviction is either confirmed or denied when they find out who the next person to be killed is. So while the reader is constantly trying to figure out who the murderer is, Agatha Christie cleverly slips in the real murderer, Justice Wargrave. He is, in the book, the fourth person to be killed, but his murder was actually faked, and he hid throughout the rest of the house as the rest of the people die. And this is revealed at the end of the book, and once the reader goes back, after reading Justice Wargrave's novel, it is easy to piece together the different clues that Christie gives. The final novel in which I wanted to talk about is The Da Vinci Code by Dan Brown. He has an unusual red herring in his novel. I really liked this one. The audience is led to believe that the antagonist is Manuel Aringarosa, who is the leader of the Opus Dei, when in fact it is really Sir Lee Teabing, the leader of the Prion. I believe it is the Prion. Yes. And what Brown does is he uses a clever form of wordplay in Manuel Aringarosa's name. Aringarosa is actually Italian for red herring. So unless you have studied Italian, you would not know that that clue is there. So the main takeaways from each of the authors I mentioned are from J.K. Rowling, make sure your red herring is integral to your story, because if not, it will make it look like you are pulling it out of nowhere and it will not be as effective. For example, in Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, if you were to take Sirius Black's character out of the book, the rest of that plot would not make sense at all. From Agatha Christie, we learn that misdirection through other objects and clues is key. For example, in Murder in the Orient Express, Detective Poirot notices on the night of a murder a person in a red kimono going through a door on the train, and he searches frantically for this red kimono. But at the end of the book, it is revealed that the red kimono was placed by the 12 passengers who were the murderers in order to throw Poirot off the trail and make it look like it was just one person. And finally, from Dan Brown, we learned that wordplay can be a clever and ingenious tool. I personally would not recommend this type of red herring unless you really know what you're doing. If you feel like you have experience in the mystery genre or have experience in another foreign language that you feel that other people would not, then I would recommend using wordplay as a red herring. The main points that I would like you to take from this presentation are that you really should put twists on conventional red herring techniques, because not being cliche will give your readers a twist to look forward to and might even blow them off the edge of their seats if you do it correctly. And also, I cannot stress this enough, in order to disguise your antagonist, make sure to flesh them out and make them seem human. Because if you make them seem like caricatures of villains and give them different stereotypes, your reader is going to see right through that red herring if they have read enough mystery novels, and the book will not be as fun for them. So make sure to give your antagonists minor flaws and have them care about things. Just make them seem like any other human being or any other character that you would write. And then when it's time for the big reveal, your readers will never see it coming. Here are the works cited that I used if anybody else is interested in checking these websites out besides Professor Davis. And I hope with this presentation, you've learned a lot about red herrings and you can go out and write a successful mystery novel.